Many GMs, both seasoned and new, can get overwhelmed when they start world building. I know, it's hard. Or is it? Maybe you're just trying to do too much too soon. There are ways to simplify this. One way is to break it down into simple time frames. There's what you need now, what you need once you get started running your game, and then what you need if you're going to run an ongoing longer campaign. It can actually be pretty easy if your goal is to just get started soon. I'm Scott Coventry, and welcome to ZealZaddy. Before we start, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell next to that to get notified when we post new content. By the way, you can watch us run live D&D games. Go to twitch.tv/ZealZaddy. When you get ready to start a game, it can feel like the entire world is on your shoulders. And that's because the entire world is on your shoulders. You're the one responsible, as the DM, for creating the world around all of the players. They're relying on you to make an interesting, believable, exciting world. Start with what you need to get started and move on from there. You'll add the rest as you go. As long as you stay a little bit ahead of the characters, you'll be fine. This chart shows campaign development requirements based on two factors. The first is the length of the game. A short game doesn't need an entire world. It barely needs a town. The second factor is how seasoned the players are. If they've been playing for a long time, all those details will come to light. So you need to either wing that or you need to plan that. And I'm here to help you plan that. As you can see on the chart, there are really only 5 levels. The first one is now, what you need right now. What do you need to get started in the first adventure? The second one is next. What are you going to need once you get started? And then the third one is campaign. If it's going to continue on to a campaign, this is where you're going to have to start detailing out the world. And then finally, it's ongoing. If you're going to use this world for multiple games, then you're going to need to really plan out in much more detail. If you plan on publishing, you're going to have to take all of that, but on top of it, you need to figure out what makes your world most unique, because that will become the hook that makes people be interested in your world. So I call the first level, level now. It's what you really need to get started. You need a story idea. You need to know a little bit about the local area, maybe a little bit about the time or season, particularly if it's snowy or rainy or something like that. And then you need an antagonist. Additionally, if you are going to do a lot of outdoor or wilderness work, you may need to do a little bit of detail on flora and fauna. Now, the story idea, it doesn't really matter whether it's a huge, big idea. It might even be better not to be a big idea to start. You need adventure hooks that can lead into bigger things. The local area is not a big deal. You can go online and find maps for that. You can make your own maps, or you can just stick to theater of the mind and describe the locations. It can be useful to know when this is happening. Is it in the middle of winter? Are the people there reclusive, or are they welcoming? An antagonist at this level does not need to be your big bad guy. All you really need is something simple like a corrupt constable or a padfoot in the Thieves Guild. So what happens next? Plan out a few different options. Players are notorious for not doing what you think they're going to do. And that's all you needed to set up an entire adventure from the perspective of world building. A tavern, a few NPCs, the description of an environment. But if this is going to be a longer adventure, now you have to concern yourself with the next level. Let's pay attention to the parts that we need here. We need an expanded story. What happened to all the things in the town? All of those things become part of the next level. You need to know a little bit about the initial culture and people, because as the adventure continues, you're going to have to expand your knowledge base for your characters. You'll need to know and map out the things in the region that are going to matter now. You'll need to know where the towns are. Are there rivers that have any effect? What about mountains and forests? Now may be a good time to start thinking about making a real map. If you're interested, we made a video, Getting Started D&D Map Making using WonderDraft. You may want to start creating encounter tables for the region too. Start mapping out where are the animals? What are the interesting plants? Are there dangerous animals? Are there monsters? Your PC's style of play will also have an effect on all this. If they like the role play, you need to spend time on making much more interesting and detailed NPCs. If they like combat more, spend more time on stat blocks and creatures and monsters. I know it can get overwhelming, or at least feel like it when you get started. What I do is I use a simple checklist: culture, the natural world, climate and weather, people, races and personality, economy and professions, travel, history, medicine, politics and law, religion, magic, technology, education, language, family life. There's so much that can go into world building. Remember, it's really about staying ahead of the players. That's it. And that leads us to the next level. Campaign level. So you've been running the game now for a while. You've gotten several adventures in. You're now running a campaign. The checklist is the first step. It doesn't have to be my checklist. Start making a checklist, because you need to start detailing things. You need to start preparing. Your characters are learning the world. So take the checklist, use it as a starting point, but then you need to start doing things like mapping out the major players, creating backstories for the important NPCs. So after that, you need to start dealing with the big things. What's going on in your world now? Is there a war going on? If there's a war going on, what are the results? How's that affecting your characters? How's it affecting the environment around your characters? Are people in the town having to go to war? But you need to start mapping this out, because they're going to start pushing into the depths of what you've created. And then there's everything else. Write out the things that you know you want to explore and put into the world first. It could be politics, religious schisms, major events like wars, maybe famines or drought, the layers of fabled beasts and amazing NPCs. As long as it ties in with the culture and immerses the characters, it'll be believable and they'll love it. And that leads to our next level. Ongoing. The hardest thing that you're going to encounter in world building, though, isn't having a concept. By this point, you'll be brimming with ideas. It's really more about the interconnection between all your NPCs and your PCs. What are the finer points of diplomacy that are shaping it? Are there technologies starting to reshape warfare? What's going on in the magical world? Finish your major religions and pantheons. Create the dangerous places. Now expound upon it. Write it down. The PCs will be looking for trouble. Make sure they can find it. You may decide that what you've created should be shared. If that's the case, publish. Most campaigns and homebrew worlds, they don't go that far. But now it's time to give it a professional polish. You have to make sure that whatever it is in your world that's most unique gets expressed. Your world has to have something that's unique. If not, there's no point in publishing, regardless of how well you write it. There's nothing worse than buying a setting only to find out that it's strewn with typos, the grammar is bad. Great ideas, poorly executed. An editor will save your product. Well, I want to thank you for coming on this first of many world-building journeys. There will be more in this ongoing series, and they'll get into much greater detail. We also have a companion series, Map Making Bootcamp, where you'll learn to make maps using Wonder Draft and Dungeon Draft. Hit the thumbs up button down below, subscribe, click the bell so you get notifications of new posts. And if you have a question, put it in the comments. We'll answer all the questions we get. You can also chat with us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We have a Discord server. By the way, you can watch us run live D&D games on Twitch. Go to twitch.tv/ZealZaddy. The links to all the material that I discussed in here is also available. That'll be on Patreon. I'm Scott Coventry, and I hope you enjoy deeper storytelling in your role-playing games.
The champion Rathios Savandos!
And you see this guy comes out with gleaming armor, honey blonde hair. He's got kind of low budget marquee good looks. Bone Eater erupts into motion, charges across the ring. He smashes directly into Rathios, and there's blood everywhere.
I'm the king!
You're actually an honorable person. That's why this has to be done. You went and dug too deep.
Odessa?
You hear some weird machine, and then suddenly you see a camera go on. There's a device hooked up to his neck, like struggling to get words out, but his body can't move, but his mouth and his head can. That guy that is with him starts looking around like he's searching for something, and then suddenly you can see him triangulating onto the camera. You son of a bitch, Ing. And you see him punch Ing, and Ing goes unconscious. He doesn't need to be conscious for this. And then the camera goes black.
Anytime that you play a bird card, you not only have to pay its food cost, but there might be an egg cost associated with it as well.
Tell me, what do you think the state of game design and the health of it is today, right now?
It's such a fun, strange time, right? I think there's lots of innovation going on. I think accessibility is so much like lower and easier, so more people are able to sort of quickly try weird stuff.
This is a recurring theme today. Where do great ideas come from? You have such a vast, tremendous depth and breadth of knowledge of not only history, right? I mean, where do your ideas come from?
Either they come from the muses, or they just come from random banging together of facts. And we're in an era now where mashup culture is the culture.